All right, we are live finally. So trying to get everything figured out here. I think we have, and appreciate everyone's patience with our learning the new systems. So we've got the pack here, and this is a Maxpedition. I think I can do this. I'm gonna feature it on the feed here. This is a Maxpedition Falcon 2. And I've been using this now for a long time. And what we're going to talk about is this outdoor first aid kit. So, a first aid kit that is designed to take with you outdoors and deal with any circumstances you might deal with uh, outside. So, let me know if you're listening live, if you're out there. Let me get the volume out of there. Let me know. I guess I did find out that the volume is working and it is live. So right on. We're gonna start talking about the stuff that's in this pack and the stuff that we've got featured. And I guess, like I say, I can walk us through here over on the left side of the screen here, the stuff that we're talking about. So we're talking about this Maxpedition Falcon 2 pack. I'll talk about some of the features here. It's a backpack. It's not a sling pack or some of the other things like Maxpedition makes. So you do have, how much I say, uh, straps. It's like a backpack. I leave those because it is kind of heavy and dependent on who's carrying it. This can be useful if you've got to carry it across a field or from a car somewhere. But most of the time I'm carrying it, it gets carried, it gets stored by this handle on the top. Super strong, just a normal handle. I also have a carabiner here, and I think that we may have linked to those carabiners over on the side as well. I really like these. They're pretty strong for what they are, a plastic carabiner, but they're made in the USA by ITW, company that created the six packs that are the little piece of plastic that holds the six packs together. Interesting story. I think, yeah, here we are. I've got them highlighted over to the left there. These are super cool. Like I say, made in the USA, good company. Really like how strong they are. And they're not so strong that it's going to get dangerous like sometimes aluminum ones can be. Anyhow, we've got that for hanging the pack, and I like it in the red color to make it kind of easy to see, and it's first aid. So that's the pack, and as you see, I don't put a lot of stuff on the outside. There's a lot of stuff in here, but not a lot of stuff on the outside, and that is because I don't want to lose things. I don't want to have extra stuff to get snagged or whatever. The exceptions to that, there's always exceptions, are this tourniquet on the outside, a EMT shears, so a strong set of scissors we'll take a look at, and a multi-tool slash knife. So this is a Leatherman Surge, and I think I again have this one linked up here at the bottom. This is, well, there's quite a few multi-tools. Sorry, I'm trying to do everything here. Get too distracted. There we go. So now we've got the Leatherman featured. And this is a pretty good multi-tool. It's pretty comfortable, super strong, and I guess adaptable. It's got a lot of interesting tools. So for me, having a pair of strong pliers is important in a first aid kit. If you've got things like fish hooks or other stuff you don't want to think about, strong pliers are important. Stuff that can grab onto something and not slip. I like a serrated knife, so this one has a serrated blade on it. It also has a good pair of scissors, which I find useful for first aid situations, splinters, and that kind of thing. And then it does have a regular blade. Now, this one has seen some better days and isn't still in as great a shape as it had been. I'm using the file on it instead of the saw, but you can get a saw option as well. I like that all of these tools are on the outside and you can get to them pretty quick. So they're essentially, the scissors and a couple of knives, and they lock into place. I didn't bother opening them all the way, but they lock into place. So they're useful knives and multi-tools. The only real disadvantage is it is heavy. So you don't have to go with this exact kit, Uh-oh, let me see what happened to my phone here. You don't need to go with this exact kit, but if you don't, you might want to go with the lighter multi-kit tool. All right, so I'm not sure if I lost connection there or not, but let us know. All right, so that's still on the outside. We've got a Blue Force gear tourniquet now, which is this tan thing. As you can see, it's losing a little bit of its luster. I've had it for a number of years now. It's Arizona, so the elastic doesn't hold up as good over time. So it's probably due to get another one of these. But this is a cat tourniquet, and there's lots of different opinions on tourniquets. I'm a fan of the cat, and I like it in a tourniquet now. So this is going to work for multiple kinds of tourniquets, and it fits into your Alice type of webbing, or lots of different backpacks and stuff it's going to work on. And you just set this thing in here. It keeps it in place. Now, as you can imagine, it's not locked in here. It is possible to damage it or to get it torn off, but the main thing is you have it. When you need it, you just have it. So tourniquet on the outside, I think, is an important thing. We're going to have more tourniquets as we dig into it, but having one ready to go is useful. And same thing with a set of EMT shears. I usually buy these in 6-packs. I guess I could again go in here and feature these. So I buy these in 6-packs because, one, I want to put them in different kits, and two, I can consider them perishable. As nice as they are, they're fairly inexpensive, and their vulnerable point is the rivet. So while they're pretty aggressive as far as scissors go, I now have them highlighted over here on the right or on the left. They're pretty aggressive as far as scissors go. They've got a serrated bottom, and they're designed to go underneath the bandage or through underneath clothing or pants or something, and not cut the person, but be aggressive to whatever it is you're cutting off. They have a pretty decent handle, which makes them easy to use. And that huge handle like that makes them easy to grab, easy to work with gloves of all different types. But also when you put them in something like Molly or Pal's webbing like this, it's really hard for them. It's not possible for them to slip through. So it actually makes it pretty easy to kind of keep EMT shears behind stuff. It's another reason I like to have a bunch of them, because you can kind of slip them into different places and always have them available. Is my battery going dead? That's what's happening up here. 85%. So kind of still managing the live production here as we go. So again, thanks everybody for joining us, and your patience with the presentation. So that's the outside, and it took us a little while, but essentially it's a clean outside. I've got just a few tools available, and then on the Falcon 2 pack, it's one big compartment, a small compartment, two almost pouches on the outside, and then if you want to count it, there's a place for a bladder or books or a laptop or iPad or something. I have it so full I wouldn't put an iPad in there. I don't think a laptop would fit, but I might put some books here. Kind of depends. So I do have a couple of books. It is a first aid kit, but depending on the situation, having some references can be useful. So let's dig in. Like I mentioned, we've got a large pack, and that's where I keep the majority of the stuff that I don't use very often, sort of the long-term storage. This center big section here is stop the bleed. This is all stuff to stop bleeding. This is personal protection, so hand washing, gloves, that kind of thing. And this is airway and some books. So we'll just dig in somewhere to get started. Typically, if you're walking up to somebody, you're setting down your first aid kit, first thing you want to do is grab some gloves. So I usually set out gloves in these little pre-packaged 2 or 3 at a time. You know, might have 3, but as you can see, these have been in here a while. They're starting to explode. So just from dry rot from being in Arizona for so long. These were some OD green ones that came with the kit a long time ago, and I'm cheap, so I kept them in here. But honestly, these are not a good color for first aid, in my opinion. These are great if you want to work on them in the car, if you want to look cool when you're making videos. But I like to use a color that contrasts with blood. So a light blue or yellow or green, light green. colors are better because if you're diagnosing a patient, you want to be able to see blood or see issues on the gloves. But I do like to have some gloves available that are not protected just to be able to get to them. But then you're going to want some gloves that are protected. So I vacuum seal gloves, and you can see these are about the same age. Again, a purple color, and then in a heavy duty vacuum seal. So they're protected from air and dirt, but also they last longer in the environment out here. I have a SWAT tourniquet, and I believe we have the SWAT tourniquet also featured here along the video. You know, I go back and forth. There's no perfect tourniquet, but a SWAT tourniquet, if I had to pick one, may just be what I consider the most useful tourniquet out there. It's essentially a big fat rubber band wrapped around. It's about the size of a pack of cigarettes or a couple of packs of gum. And it's in a heavy packaging. And I prefer the orange ones. They were out of stock last time I bought them, and they do only last a certain amount of time. I like to carry them on my ankle sometimes or in a pocket. And the packaging is heavy duty, but it will wear out. And once it's broke, the seal is broke, and the rubber inside starts to get interact with the air and everything. They only last a certain amount of time in Arizona. So I end up buying these things on a fairly regular basis, even though I'm not using them. So the old ones get used as training aids. So even if the material, the outside packaging gets worn out, you still have the opportunity to open them and use them. And again, because they're so small, it's easy to keep a SWAT tourniquet with you all the time. A cat tourniquet is a better tourniquet most of the time, but it is bigger and it's got the windlass and the stick and everything, which just makes them a little more clumsy to deal with. So I like to keep my SWAT or my cat tourniquets available handy, because that's going to be what you want on your leg or on an arm or on somebody else, so, you know, somebody who has a bleeding issue. This is going to be for dogs, for little people, for extremities that aren't, you can't get a cat on as easily. Also, just as a compression, these can be multi-use. So I really like SWAT tourniquets. Can't say enough about how great I like them. Great values too, because they're so small. Great gifts as well for people that might not be thinking about safety and that kind of thing. So in the same pouch, keep the lights. I like these Larry, I guess they're made by Nebo, and these are a bar, an LED bar. I need to put new batteries in here. It's going to work like this, but it can get a lot brighter. This takes 3 AA batteries. It's got a magnet on the back here, so you can put it on things. It's also got the clip. And then I've used this where like essentially one of the batteries is. I've used that to jam into places quite a bit. So you can essentially get this light where you need it pretty easily. And it gives you a work light of light. So again, working on first aid stuff, you could easily clip this here, have this angled over. Oh, I should also mention this clip rotates around. It makes it super handy for, again, like shoving it on here and adjusting it over here, turning it on. It's going to flood this area with light if I got to deal with a splinter or something like that. Also in here is another type of light, a Surefire G2, a 2 cell. They're called CR123. It's a very powerful 1.5 volt battery. Just a lot of battery in a small little package, and it's worth having some extras around. Quite a few task lights use these little 1, 2, 3 batteries, and they can get super bright. So this is useful if you're looking for something without getting all gory. If you're looking for things during a first aid situation, you want to have a light that can help you with that. It can also be useful for signaling and just identification of things. In the same light, a magnifying mirror. This is a 30x magnifying mirror. And I don't know if there's a way to show that. I guess you can kind of see the camera here. But this will, if you've got to look at your own eyes or your own nose or your own mouth or something, this thing can see 30, it bounces your own reflection back at you 30 times. Super useful tool, and can be great if you've got to work with someone, and they can be way more comfortable if they can see what it is that you're working on. Got some hand sanitizer, lots of different versions of that these days. This is made by American or Adventure Medical Kits. The reason I chose this is they just have a very strong container. This has been in here for a long time and it's still full because the container is so strong. So companies that work with outdoors, work with adventures and stuff, people that are doing adventures and stuff, they end up having durable packaging. And one of the reasons you buy it isn't just the brand name, but the durable packaging. I've got some Band-Aid brand wash. This is a kind of a between a soap and a hand wash. Nice. I wouldn't irrigate a wound with that, but it's good to be able to clean yourself up after any kind of situation where you want to clean yourself up. So I'm going to put most of this stuff back in, minus those gloves. And I'm going to recommend while I'm putting this stuff back together, maybe every year on your birthday is a good time to go through and change your batteries on your different devices, change your smoke detectors, and monitor your perishable items in a first aid kit so that you have some anniversary to go in and make sure everything is in good shape, like I just did. I found out there. So that's the personal protection and cleanup, let's say. Obviously, there could be a lot more in there, but that's sort of the stuff I can grab, and then some lights. In this one, it's airway and some books. So the books are here and there. They're just kind of jammed into the bottom of the pocket here. But essentially, all these airways, different ways to open up an air channel. When we're thinking about mammals, we breathe, then we bleed, and then everything else. So we have to be able to breathe all the time. And depending on the kind of trauma, kind of an accident or a fall someone might have had, or something that without getting gory, right? There's different things. So you're going to want different types of airways. There's different size of people and there's different circumstances. So without getting into too much technical, I usually like to get a set. I think we have this linked. Our set is probably, forget, 20 or 16 different airways. And what I do then is break those up. The airways are going to go from tiny little airways that you'll almost never need outside of a hospital or ambulance situation, unless you've got kids. So they'll go from small ones up to large ones. I've highlighted them over here on the left. And does it say how many are in the set? You'll get a couple of different types also. There's these clear types, and I like to have a few of these clear. They're almost like a heavy tubing with some structure inside so they can't be crushed and they can get themselves through an obstruction. And then some of the softer style that are almost like rubber tubing. They also make some that are plastic. Again, for different circumstances, they're certainly not comfortable, but they're effective and useful. So I like to go with an assortment, and then I split that assortment up amongst my different kits because I'm not an ambulance and I don't need 17 set or 17 size, or let's not be unrealistic. We don't need 8 sizes. I can put 2 here, 2 in another set, 2 in another set. None of them might be perfect, but they'll all have a large and a small. I like to have a Write in the Rain notebook. This is a type of paper that's not going to fall apart in water, and it has a Write in the Rain. What is this? A space pen, a Fisher space pen. So I have a pen that's going to write no matter what, and paper that can handle it. It can be underwater, it can be in the rain, it can be dirty, and it's still going to work. So just having that notepad to be able to leave notes or to be able to make notes for yourself. Again, a traumatic situation, you never know. So having yourself prepared for that is a good idea. Along the lines of airway, we also have a CPR mask or shield, whatever you want. I think it's a mask, it's the proper term. So they make them in orange containers now. This isn't showing my age, this is an old one. And as an EMT, I would always get one with the bag. So this is to put a incubator, whatever the bag is called anymore, a one-way valve for the bag. But this is essentially a way to protect yourself from any cross-contamination with somebody who you may not know, or but it also allows you to just get a much better seal than you'd ever get with any other kind of improvised CPR. So for both reasons, to have better CPR and to be, removed from fluid contact, having a CPR shield is handy. You may want to include a set of the smaller kind of masks. This is called a shield, I think, because of the structure and there's so much to it. We're highlighting it over here to the left right now. But you can get little plastic masks that essentially provide a barrier for the fluids and might not be as effective as CPR masks. But if you've got an issue with a lot of people going on, you don't necessarily want to start cross-contaminating everything either. So being able to put a mask with each person could be useful. But again, to kind of think about the age of the people you're dealing with and the circumstances. Airway is always an issue, but it's more of a risk with some people than others. The books that I carry are mainly for reference, and I have found that in real emergencies, when you're removed from immediate aid, the comfort that references can give you is priceless. So unless you're some kind of a robot who can deal with emergencies better than I can, in the times when I've truly had emergencies, people I care about, or my dog one time, having problems and I couldn't do anything more than what I knew how to do, having resources that I could read through gave me something to focus on and got my mind thinking about the problem at hand from a more logical sense than an emotional sense. So some of the resources that I carry around are the Pocket Partner. This is a fairly thick resource. It's developed for law enforcement, fire department, emergency service type of occupations, and it has table of contents, resources, communications, crimes, explosives, first aid, incident management, investigation, natural disasters, safety and health, substance abuse, terrorism, transportations, weapons, hazmat, a phone directory, calendars, and an index. So it's the kind of stuff that an emergency services person might need in general. Then I've got from Adventure Medical again, their comprehensive guide to wilderness and travel medicine, essentially the first aid section of another handbook or another manual. Very useful, something that you can read if you're on a plane or a bus, you're bored, your first aid kit is probably with you, and this is something you could pull out and kind of spend some time, be distracted, but also put it towards productive use, learning something. Now this last one is more of a resource because I live here in Arizona, really close to the international border with Mexico, and out hunting or just camping or bird watching or whatever. We've had encounters, and I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker. So this is a Spanish language pocket translator that's focused on medical issues. So it's got some really easy to deal with tabs. You can focus in on what issue it is, whether it's general questions, pain, nervous system, abdominal problems, urinary, different realms of medical stuff that you might want to deal with. And it's really easy, quick. Are you in pain? Tiene usted dolor ora? And it tells you dolor ora. So it tells you how to pronounce it, even though I'm not necessarily pronouncing everything perfectly. And again, it's something that if you're stranded, bored, you can uptrain. You can keep your mind off stuff. Stuff that I like to keep dice and playing cards in these kind of packs also for the same kind of thing. And imagine if you're the wounded person and there's stuff going on, that distraction, that's something to do. Keeping kids occupied, a first aid kit is allowed to do that too, to take care of that as well. All right, so that's the outside pockets. Now we'll dig into this middle section, which I mentioned was for bleeding. So it does have some of these compression straps, and I've got this pack blown out as full as it can go. So essentially these are just there to tidy things up, but I don't want to crush everything in the pack, and so I just don't really compress them. But we have to open them up to get in there. And as we open the top up, it's just going to be bandages spilling out. So I have the first kind staged here. If I just open the top, I can pull out these Israeli bandages, and I have essentially all the different sizes, a couple of each. Oh, this camera keeps glitching on me. So sorry about the glitches there. So a couple of different of the Israeli bandages or the emergency bandages. These are very well made, heavy bandages with a big sterile pad and then gauze wrap and then a closure bar at the end. So they're multi-useful. They're sterile and they're strong. They're also a green color, which, you know, depending on your situation, matters or not. So we've got a 6-inch one. We've got the 4-inch one. They call the 6-inch, I think, the abdominal one, and or is it 8-inch, 6-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, and 8-inch? I think that's how we got it, or that's how they differentiate them. And again, I think the best thing to do is just have an assortment of them. We've got them highlighted over here to the side. Again, you can buy these for hospital or medical use, and they're typically almost in like a plastic bag. Like they're not very durable packaging at all. So for something like this, where they're crammed into a soft-sided pack, I think the durable packaging is kind of an extra bonus. So something that isn't in durable packaging, but is kind of a workaround to being economical, is this vet wrap. This is for horses, and it can be decorative. It can be for first aid stuff, but it's essentially the same as cling wrap. You can get it in all different colors, and this again can be useful for lots of different things. It's very lightweight and just a little cheaper to get it the veterinarian style. Get it in a lot of different colors too. As we dig down, we've got more and more. Here's some standard cling. Some cling can be good for a sprain. It can be good to hold bandages on. It can be good to cover. So handy to have around. And then we've got a Z-Pack. Trying to remember what this one is. This one is I rewrapped this one after practicing with it just because it was in pretty good shape. I think that's a Z-Pack. So we've got some kind of even more gauze down there, but the essential stuff was these Israeli bandages at the top. Now here is another triangle bandage in a vacuum sealed in a heavy plastic. There is a thin cinch. That's what I was thinking of. We have an open thin cinch in there, and then here's what they look like when they're still vacuum sealed, and very similar to the Israeli bandage, that it's got a sterile gauze, and then a large compression, and then a hook at the end. These are made by H&H, and again, kind of a duct tape of first aid gear. I have multiples of those because they can be so useful for stopping bleeds and sprains and other things. So then we get into the stuff that we're going to use less and less often, the Celox, the clotting agents. So I can get in here, we can highlight one of these for everybody. And these you're not going to want to use as first line of aid, but if you're in a outdoor situation and you're nowhere near any other kind of help, this is a bandage with the hemostatic granules in it, and then this is a gauze with the stuff in it. Now, originally they would just give you the powder, and it turns out it's a little easier to remove the gauze than the granules. I also have some kind of pre-rolled duct tape in this flat configuration. Makes it a lot more easy to deal with, like the orange. And, you know, duct tape is super useful for all kinds of things. Go ahead and jam everything back in here. So this keeps all of this bleeding stuff isolated, together, and clean if you're not using it. Same way with the airway stuff. So I really like this Falcon 2 pack for its compartmentalization aspects. So now we're going to get into that big compartment with just a lot of stuff. So to first start opening it, have some important stuff towards the top or stuff that gets used most often, like little SAS survival guide, similar to the other manuals that I've gotten there. Just a well thought out, useful manual. Since this is for an outdoor survival kit, it's got more of like the survival guide type of topic or subject matter. And it can get into pretty good detail, but it's also easy to thumb through, find what you're looking for. Again, or if you've got time to kill and you're looking to be distracted, plenty of interesting stuff to pay attention to in there. I think I also have that one linked here. To the end. I'm getting used to how to find these things. There we go. Throw that up on the left side of the screen. So the first thing at the top, not everybody's going to put this into a first aid kit, but they're so inexpensive and they can be so useful. And again, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, your cell phone might not work. So having a Baofeng radio, I keep one with a lapel mic just because that's the package that I happen to get. And it does make it handy. Keep the antenna in the little pouch here next to it. I think I have the radio linked up. I don't have the pouch linked up, but this way I keep it in a separate pouch. Now I don't want it on the outside of the pack because I just don't want it to get damaged, and I don't need it all the time. You know, most of the time our cell phones work just great. But if you were going to be someplace and you needed to have this for a while, easy to add it to the outside. So having that as a sub pouch is the way to go. I can get rid of trolls. So that was the survival guide and the Baofeng radio. I'll throw that up here as well so everybody can check it out. I think that they're handy. Not everyone's going to be a ham radio operator, but you can essentially set those things up to be scanners so you can listen to what's going on. The batteries are small enough to keep a couple of batteries with you or some kind of charger. And then they're, in an emergency, they're useful. But even as walkie-talkies, they can be pretty useful. All right, so a couple of the things that you'll see I have around the outside of the kit are these disposable one-time use emergency toilets. Can I click on stuff over here? So these things can be pretty popular. They've got agents in them that stop the whatever it is you got going on, number 1 or 2. They stop that, they get it all clogged up and in the bag without getting real messy. And then they also have stuff to make the scent go away. And they also have stuff to clean up after. So it's essentially, even if you've got to go into like a porta potty or something out in the middle of nowhere, you bring one of these kits in with you and you've got even more. You don't have to worry about if everything is good to go without getting into the gory details. These can be super handy. Buy them by the 6, 12 at a time. Have them in your different bags, have them in your car. Super handy items that people don't think about. Again, in a situation where you're dealing with damage or wounds or stress, this kind of stuff makes life so much easier, and it's easy enough to add to your kit and not even think about it. We've got a bit of a survival kit most of it's from American Survival Gear or Adventure Medical Gear. I just noticed that this thing's getting squished. This is an actual OtterBox and it's getting kind of squished. Can you tell it's like at a weird angle? Anyhow, I won't go through that whole thing. We'll just consider it a sub kit here inside the bag. I do have one of the surgical instrument kits. Again, not something you're going to use all the time, but every once in a while to remove a splinter or get a piece of fragment of something, a piece of rock or a stick out of someplace. Super nice to have these. They're easy enough to clean with some of the other stuff we have here. And it's the kind of stuff that you're glad you have it and you forget that you're carrying it around the rest of the time. In this little pouch, we've got a Z-Pack dressing, which is essentially a large piece of I'm trying to think. large piece of gauze that's sterile in a Z pack. So a very easy way to distribute if you need to. I've also got a burn dressing, which is essentially like a, well, it's sort of like a Vaseline material with the gauze soaked in that. And inside of here is one of my tips that I got from an old paramedic guy a long time ago when I was going through EMT school. And this is, I'm not able to say this word, emergency disposable obstetric baby delivering kit. I don't know how to say that word, but the kit that you would have on the ambulances to prepare or to have all the kit you need for delivering a baby. That is very economical kits to get, and they bring so much to the table. I think we linked them into the description here. I'm not. It's tough one to see on the. Is that this thing? I think it's no. It's this. I think I linked it. And they're very economical. They're designed to refill an ambulance supply kit, and you know, unless you need the packaging and everything, just put them in your own pouch like this, and they're good to go. Let me start putting stuff over there so it doesn't keep falling on me. We've got a couple of rolls of toilet paper just squished in a vacuum sealer. Pro tip, that's what 2 squished rolls of toilet paper look like years later. We've got a large scarf in here and a large blue tarp. There's a blood pressure cuff in the pouch inside of here. And this is yet another couple of first aid kits that are prepared kits. But at this level, once we're into the kit, we might be subdividing this. This might be, well, hey, you know, we're going to take the canoe and go over there. I can reach in and I can give somebody a really effective, complete first aid kit and a handy put together survival kit in a sub pouch like this. And they can go off and do their thing. And I haven't completely gutted out my main kit. And so I kind of consider that a sub kit. In the top here, you can see, if I move the camera a little bit or move the kit, there's some stethoscopes. So if you know what you're doing with stethoscopes, they're inexpensive. And if you're no longer an EMT, it's easy enough to put them in your kit. Not everybody needs them, but they can be kind of handy. And they're by no means a necessity. As you can see, though, most of the stuff fits in pretty much in sub kits or in its own pouch, so that, I mean, hopefully I'm not unloading this stuff like a duffel bag where I'd have to unload everything every time I needed something at the bottom of the kit. Hopefully in this case, I keep the things staged to, at least in my experience, what I might need is out towards the edges or at the tops, and the stuff that gets used very rarely, if at all, can stay, you know, deepest or lowest in the bag. I think the only things I might have in here that are completely unnecessary would be some of the manuals and the radio. I don't think too many first aid kits need a radio, but they're not expensive, and this one needs a place to live anyway. So I figure leaving it in the kit is just as good a place as any. If I had to pick this kit up and go somewhere with it, I'd have it. And most of the time this kit goes on camping trips and outdoor adventures. I'll package that up later. It goes on outside adventures, so having the radio in it, you know, doesn't bother anybody. Now, there's a couple of things that I don't have in here, but I'm going to sneak into the video anyway. And one is the boost oxygen, super handy. If you've got smokers, that's where we first started finding out about it, is people that smoked and then went to high elevations to do exercising and things. Really enjoy having the boost of essentially pure oxygen, 95% oxygen. It doesn't weigh anything. It weighs like an empty aluminum can. It's got this kind of cover on it. You just kind of pull the trigger and inhale, and well, I don't know, something like 30 or more like inhales of air. It's not necessarily like carrying around an oxygen can, and you know, oxygen can be handy. Certainly not necessary, but it's a nice perk. Something else that's not necessary but can be fun are something like novelty bandages, like we've got these bacon bandages here. You get little kids that are, get a boo-boo, or you're just trying to distract somebody while somebody else is hurt and you're trying to alleviate some stress. Just some fun, having some fun, humorous things. Again, some dice, some playing cards or something can be good distractions in a first aid kit as well. All right, so we went about 40 minutes. I didn't know how long this would take. This is our third live stream. So if there's any questions from people watching live, I've only had to remove one troll. So anybody else has any questions, let us know. Otherwise, we've got just about everything over there linked. I've got the 30X mirror, which is pretty handy. I didn't mention it has suction cups on the back, so you can stick that onto something and not have to hold on to it if you're trying to get a splinter out of your nose or something. We've got the ITW carabiners linked. Buy these in like a set of 12 and start putting them everywhere. Super handy to be able to attach things, and most importantly, detach things without having to use two hands. So putting like a hat on here, putting your gloves on here, putting your ear pro on here, for if you're out doing our kind of sports. But if it's your hiking stick or your binoculars, just being able to put something down that you know is secure, good company. The EMT shears, again, I recommend buying a set of them and putting them all over the place. You can never have too many, and they will not last forever. Don't be concerned if your EMT shears kind of blow out on you. Buy a bunch of them. There's some X shears, there's some better ones, but when you're buying inexpensive ones, just remember that you've got more. We've got the, I call them Israeli bandages. I guess they're called emergency bandages. In the bleeding section here, we've got the pocket reference book. I guess I could be clicking on these as I'm talking. We got the pocket reference book in there. Again, for those things that you may not have at the top of your head, or right out of your mind, but you know that you might need them, maybe to interact with some other emergency services folks. Let's see, I'm just gonna go this way. We've got the Spanish medical translator. Again, maybe a little bit of overkill, but depending on where you're at, can be useful. We've got the airways, which are, I like to buy the set that has both the rubber, the plastic, the hollow, all three types in about 8 different sizes, and then I divide them up into different kits so that each of my kits has an airway or 2, actually 2 or 4. Then we have the bacon bit, or the, sorry, bacon bit's laying on the floor over here. We had the bacon bandages for just having a little bit of lightheartedness with the kit to alleviate some stress if necessary. In this outside breathing section, we've got the CPR mask and the essentially it comes with a valve and the case. We've got the SAS survival guide in here. We've got the cat tourniquets. You can buy these multiple at a time, probably save a little bit of money. Again, put them on different packs, put them in different vehicles, put them with your different sporting goods gear. So you never know when you might get a puncture wound or something, that fracture that causes or requires a tourniquet. This thing that I use to keep it handy all the time is called a tourniquet now. It's made by Blue Force Gear, made in the USA. Very handy piece of kit. You're working with a really good company there. We've got the stethoscopes inside of here. So if you need to listen to what's going on for air, or sometimes it can be some other things you can hear for blood moving and stuff like that. Stethoscopes can be kind of neat. Actually, it can be kind of fun if you've got cheap ones, disposable ones, or just extra ones. They can be fun for just being outdoors, listening into a tree or something and hear what's scurrying around inside of a dead tree or something. You can do other things with some of this first aid equipment. We've got those Israeli bandages, those emergency bandages, essentially very well packaged, heavy duty gauze, sterile gauze with ace bandages attached to them with a attachment clip thing at the end. So you can use them for so many uses in a bleeding or other emergency situation. We've got the, is it obstetric? I can't say the word, the baby kit. If you're having a baby kit for the ambulances, super good way to have a lot of sterile gauze and some other stuff place you can spread out a big sterile area. So again, somebody that's wounded or somebody that's got a burn or something, you can create a big sterile area very fast that way. They're very inexpensive. We've got the hemostatic gauze in there, which is the gauze that has the uh, the clotting agents in the gauze. We've got just lots of sterile gauze in here in different formats. We've got the petroleum gauze for the burns inside of the bandage kit, but deep in there, so it stays. I didn't mention it's a little more fragile, but also so that it doesn't get jostled too much. Again, because of the packaging is a little fragile. We've got the disposable urinal and the disposable #2 kit, and a couple of them, so that again, for people that are stressed out or not comfortable, makes it life a little bit easier, taking away some of that stress. We've got the Nebo Larry, that LED light bar, super bright. Got the G2 from Surefire, another light that's super bright. I don't know why I got these out of order, but we got the gauze. So there's the Israeli bandages are sterile gauze, but they have an ACE bandage, so they're kind of overkill. We have regular ACE or regular gauze in there also. And I usually buy my regular gauze in hospital packaging, so it's not the heavy duty packaging and it's less expensive. I let some of my equipment be in heavy duty packaging and then the rest of it be in less expensive hospital packaging. We've got the Boost. You can buy these in 3-packs and it makes it even better. Again, put one in the car, maybe one in a pack. I don't know if I don't put it in my pack, but depending on who I'm going with and where I'm going. I live at 2,400 feet. If I'm going to something like 9,000 feet with someone who lives at sea level, I might bring some Boost. We've got the ice cubes. I don't know if I mentioned these, but these things are super handy. I recently had a toothache, and these things are just distilled water inside of a plastic thing. You put these in the freezer in your ice chest. They stay cold or ice. And when you need them, you can put them on I was putting them on my cheek, on my jaw, but you could put them on your shoulder. You could put them in your armpit. They're good for cooling people down. So depending on the situation, if you've got to cool somebody down and you don't want the ice to just disappear into a mess, this will get wet. It is pulling moisture from the atmosphere, but it's not leaking. And this can be reused over and over, cleaned, and super handy. Just a very handy, both pain prevention, like pain soothing, but also temperature reducing, like can be used for multiple efforts in a first aid situation. Really handy. The Baofeng radio, again, just in case you're out somewhere and you're beyond cell phone reception and you're in that band where the radio will still work. But more often I use the Baofeng as a scanner just to listen to what's going on out there. The Leatherman pocket tool, one of the few things I keep on the outside, super worth having. This one is called a Surge. Then we've got the Celox in there. Again, the gauze with the coagulating agent in it. Not your first line of defense, but out in the middle of nowhere, somebody's bleeding and you're getting worried. It's nice to have something that can almost just shut off the bleeding. We've got the SWAT tourniquet right up top that can just shut off the bleeding. And then finally, it's all inside of this Falcon 2 backpack from Expedition. So that's the chat, the what to put in a first aid kit. Give us some feedback, what you think. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. I didn't see too many questions coming in live, but we'll try to do these more on the regular. Maybe we'll get some more questions coming in. So until next time, thank you for joining us. We'll end it over on the other platform first. And as it's ending, I'll stop that stream. And I'll say thanks to the people on YouTube. You kind of were watching over the shoulder while I was doing it on the other channel, not channel, but the other thing. So if you got any questions or whatever, I guess leave them in the comments. And, oh wait, you know what? I think I can. Wait, I think I have 100% control over here. So here we go. Go grab stuff from our store.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.